are one more time in our meeting with Lily Sin Barreras, Lily Without Barriers. To me, my heart is full, my spirit feels good, because today I have a man who I met a while ago, who's the author of a book that we're going to introduce, but a kind, generous, and smart soul. With us today is the author, only Josh Alexander. So it sounds like telenovela. You know what a telenovela is?
Mm-mm.
Soap opera in Spanish.
Ah, okay.
Thank you for coming and joining me.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You have written a book that's become part of my library, and I'm really jealous with my books. I think I was saying that to you off camera. And it's Healing Schizoaffective. You use the word healing. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what does that mean to you. To me, I know what it means to me, but I want to talk a little bit of what that means to you. So tell me, when does Josh decide, I need to write a book?
Wow. Well, I mean, it's interesting you bring up healing, because just recently I've been kind of evolving my understanding of healing. I think when I wrote the book, I meant healing in the sense that I was able to function in my life. For me, without medication, that was really important to me. And
so let's go back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So are you a person who identifies as schizoaffective?
Now?
Yes.
No.
Okay. At the time, were you? At the time of the book?
When I wrote the book, I would probably say no, but I had a sense that I was out of the woods. Like, I wasn't afraid of the illness anymore, but I didn't know if it was fully out of me. So at the time, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for those who need data and research and labeling, can you educate us on what schizoaffective is?
Yeah, so schizoaffective is a mental illness that has both a psychotic aspect, a thought disorder aspect, as well as a mood disorder aspect. So the thought disorder is delusions, hallucinations, those type of things. And then the mood would be, depression or, bipolar type of thing.
So we hear, I'm glad that you bring that up, because it could be so many things, right? So mood can change by the minute, regardless of do you have a mental health disease or not. We're affected by the universe and where we are, who we share time with. So when you decide to write this book, and I'll bring out a couple of things that really continue to keep me connected to you, not only because you're a good person, but through your writing, you are able to take us through what exactly is happening for you, even when you are removed from it. So you still remember that.
I remember it, and I've actually had flashback type things happen to me since. Yeah, and I've come to realize that I had some PTSD from it too, over the past few years since I wrote the book. Just continuing my healing journey, I've kind of learned more of. I've learned how hurt I was from it, and trying to heal my heart from the traumatic experience I went through.
I think traumatic is appropriate. In your book, when you're walking through the journey, I think you do great justice to what we're still missing in care, in quality of care. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that, but I want to break some stigmas and stereotypes. You are a white male, okay? You are well educated. You have loving parents. You, on the outside, challenge what a lot of people have as a stereotype. This is a disease that happens to fill in the blank. This is something that happens to fill in the blank. That's why I think it's so important for people to realize that none of us are exempt of walking in a journey of this kind. And I don't pretend to walk in your shoes. So at what age do you find yourself, and you'll need to pick up the book if you really want to figure all of this out, and you're going to be as jealous as I am about not letting anybody borrow your book. At what age do you realize, Josh, something is different here?
Well, I think it's tricky, because the label's helpful for the illness, right? But I don't view it as something that you have. Like, it's, for me, I write in the book, it was when I realized I had the illness was when I realized my life wasn't working. I couldn't function. I couldn't hold a job, relationships. So, I mean, that was the moment I realized I had a real illness. But in my life, I mean, people, you know, everyone's different. You know, when I was a kid, you know, maybe, you know, there were things about me that might not be normal. Maybe I wasn't as well adapted socially or something. Who knows? But that's not an illness. I mean, the illness happened when my life fell apart, collapsed. You know what I mean?
I love the way you say that, because I think is the search for normal really can drive you insane. So they're trying to fit in. So we have some common things that we can agree on, right? You know, when there's traffic, what's a car, what's a house, you know, what's a female, what's a male, and even that I would challenge at times because we have such a rainbow of brothers and sisters. But we share a common reality, right? It's 3 o'clock, it's 5 o'clock, we get jobs, we don't have jobs. So those are our common realities. And then there is our uniqueness. So I like when you speak about finding that norm. So you can't hold a job. What does that look like for you? Not holding a job.
I mean, starting a job and then after, you know, a short period of time, not being able to handle it and quitting multiple times, you know, different things like that.
Was it overwhelming? Was it just a desire of finding something else, making poor choices? Where do you?
It really, I mean, I was a pretty, you know, perseverant person. Like I did really well in school. That was my thing.
It's clear.
You know, if you want to talk about identifying with something, that's what I identified with when I was younger, being good at school. So to me, to not be able to hold a job, I mean, I tried everything from washing dishes to stocking shelves to, you know, anything I could do. And to not be able to do it, it wasn't something I was choosing, I don't think. It was the illness, the symptoms of the illness made it too difficult for me to do it.
I can relate, because I sometimes wanted to hide, and I went to get a job at Wendy's, and they were very kind and generous. This is after having, you know, several careers that I believe I should be proud of. And I respect fast food now like you would not believe. I didn't have the motor skills, the coordination. I could not execute the task. So I would continue to, okay, maybe if I mop, maybe if I clean the bathrooms, but I could not follow through. So I can relate to that, you know, where can I find myself holding a job, which to most folks would be like, just get another one, or just find something else. So in your book, you talk about losing your sense of your reality almost. And you also speak about treatment, and I think there is very few books that I've written that are able to combine all of that. So you not only talk about how this illness has affected you prior to even a diagnosis. So this is prior to even getting close to giving the monster a name. That's what I used to call it. What the heck is this monster?
Yep.
And where is it so I can punch its lights out? But you are able to take us from the pain to somewhat balance, to the pain coming back, to healing, to more pain, to healing. You've done a marvelous job of this, of taking your pain and really using it for someone else that might need it. So healing is appropriate for this book.
Yeah, and I want people, I mean, when I wrote the book, I really wanted it to be known that healing is possible, because one of my greatest fears throughout the whole illness was I going to be like that for the rest of my life?
This is it.
Was I never going to be able to have a family or a career that I love or just socialize normally or anything? So it was a terrible fear, and I didn't know. Like, I had no information that said otherwise. So
you are in a place where you're not finding yourself in any place where you fit in or feels normal. Am I correct?
When I was sick?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to explain to someone who's never experienced it. I've heard it said it's, you know, it's like a hallucinogenic drug experience. You can't really describe it, and if you do try to describe it, the other person still doesn't know what it feels like. So the psychotic aspect of the illness, I lost my sense of reality, everything, like things that people don't even know, they take for granted about their experience, like, you know, people's experience when they walk down the street, like things that make sense to people unconsciously, like, didn't make sense to me.
In one of your visits to the hospital, you're able to, it's almost chilling, how you're able to describe your experience there. I believe this is vital for us to understand and support one another when we go into an ER and we're not bleeding in the outside, right? So they don't have to come in and put pressure on a wound, or they don't have to do that. We're bleeding inside, right? And we're in the raw. We don't really know what's going on. So you go to the emergency room. What happens for you there?
So this was the first time before, I think it was before I was diagnosed. So I actually went to I was having those psychotic experiences of not being in touch with reality, but...
Did you know you were not in touch with reality?
Not really, because it was, to me, it was real. It just didn't make sense. And I say it's like living in a Stanley Kubrick film. It's real, but you can't function because it doesn't make sense to you.
Doesn't match with the other pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah. So for that ER visit, I was having really bad burning in my stomach, probably from the stress of the situation. And when I got there, it's just so important to, I think, to treat people with compassion and to really see them and to just treat them like you would treat yourself, like a human being, and not, I mean, I wanted to bring up the point of fault. And when you mentioned stigma, I was thinking like about how, you know, people think with depression or something, you can just kind of will your way out of it.
You can't?
I'm a very driven person, and
I heard that a lot. Just shake it off.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
It's like telling someone to bench press 1,000 pounds.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how strong you are, determined you are. It's like a physical limit almost. Yeah. So, yeah, it was just a very traumatic ER experience. I didn't feel safe. I was afraid of the doctor and the nurse. I didn't feel heard. And it was like a Stanley Kubrick film. Like it was just a very scary, traumatic experience. And then I ended up just kind of leaving. Like I
signed yourself up. Yeah.
Basically, yeah. And I was so sick, so sick. So
there are many folks, including myself, that can hear you louder than anybody else because we have been there. So when you go to an emergency room, you go because there's a crisis. When you go there for a crisis, like it is mental health, these places are very cold. Some of us have physical experiences, so cold can be very cold to the bone, chilling to the bone, or you can feel hot and cold and all of those things. People's voices sometimes are either, I call it all the time, it's like somebody's blaring music in your ears, or you're not sure if you're getting them right or not. And it becomes a protocol. And when you treat human beings with this protocol that is required for hospitals, you are separating us because I don't know if I can trust you, first of all. I just met you. Okay? It seems like you have a lot of power, and I'm talking when you're in the emergency room, because you can keep me here against my will. So let's start there.
Yeah.
So you're already starting a relationship. You almost have to become friends instantly or enemies, because your brain has to just justify why are you there, what's going on, and who are you. Lay on the bed. I don't know if they did that to you. Lay in the bed. We're going to take your, we're going to draw blood. We're going to do this. We. And you're going, I have one question.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
So I totally agree with you. That happens. So you leave the hospital. You are in pain. Nothing has changed.
It was worse, actually. It was a lot worse. It was early in the morning. I don't even know if I'd eaten. I was 3 miles from town, so I had to like literally walk. I was so exhausted that I didn't eat, like I could barely walk. I didn't even know if I could make the walk. I thought I would like just die on the side of the road. And I was just like forcing myself to take each step and just feeling so sick I can't even describe. And it was terrible.
So you're feeling physically sick and emotionally sick. And I think sometimes we forget that when you have this chapter, this journey, you feel it in your body.
I had a lot of physical symptoms.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a mental illness, but I was fatigued, achy, I had pains, a lot of physical symptoms. Yeah.
So there's the weakness. Am I going to be able to make it?
Yeah. That was probably my biggest fear was I ever going to have a life that I wanted? Because I didn't feel like myself. I didn't feel like I could fulfill my potential, and it was heartbreaking. There's a loss. There's a lot of loss involved.
Death.
Ego death.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which on the flip side of that, I learned so much. I grew so much from it. So there is a blessing in disguise as well as part of it, but it's a very difficult experience. As you know.
So if we focus on the ability that you have to talk, and you do some poetry here, which I already told you is incredible, the way you're able to put poetry to such a difficult journey. And I guess a lot of poets would tell you that too. It comes from pain.
Yeah.
So you are a young man who went to college. You pride yourself in your education, and when you get ill, all of this is ripped from you because you cannot use any of these talents.
Yeah, my sense of self, my identity was gone. It was everything I thought I was, I wasn't anymore. What I thought I could do, I couldn't do anymore.
Who did you think Josh was prior to this experience?
I mean, to be honest, I like myself a lot better now than I did before the illness.
Me too.
Yeah, like
too.
I think I'm such a better person. Before the illness, I don't even think I really knew who I was, but I identified with certain things like my ability to do well in school, just ego things, And the illness taught me, it stripped that away, and it taught me what really matters in life. So.
It's beautiful that you're able to recognize that after everything has been ripped away from you, because that's how you felt according to your book and the chats we've had. You discover who you really are. Your ego has to move away because there's no space for it.
Yeah.
So you find a way to start some research within yourself and in the larger world. Where are you that you say, oh, this is what's going on with me? Is there a woe?
It's been an evolution. It really has. And even since, I say that I healed in the book in June of 2013, which is when I no longer needed medication. So it's been over 4 years now.
So you're not taking medication?
I haven't taken medication since June of 2013. Yeah. And I've been able to not end up in the hospital, which to me, I couldn't do before.
Yeah.
So,
what did medication do for you? Was it helpful?
I mean, it made me feel numb. It made me feel dull. It made me feel like my whole body was like half dead. Like, it made me feel terrible. It also blunted the symptoms, you know, to a large extent, stopped the symptoms. But I didn't feel like myself. It was.
So again, you're in somebody else's body. He looks a lot like you.
I mean, it was my body. It didn't feel right, you know. I mean, that was me. I mean, I have a friend who has depression, who's on an antidepressant. He's been on it for years, and he's fine. He doesn't bother him. He can function. For me, I felt like it made me worse. But the problem was I couldn't go off it because then I'd end up in the hospital. So I was like caught between a rock and a hard place, in a sense.
So the outcome would have been worse than
I mean, I tried going off twice, and I had 2 relapses. So it was, that's why I kept going off, because I couldn't bear how I felt anymore.
Or not feeling.
Yeah.
Because if you're numb, you're not feeling,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you go to an institution,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what hospitals are for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's every 2 hours, 2 days, 3 days, whatever the
Mhm.
hold may be. Do you ever feel like come out of the hospital better?
Yeah, in the sense of the acute episode, I would come out better. So that first ER experience, I wasn't actually admitted.
Right.
So the times I've been in inpatient unit, it does help, and in the sense that you know, it does reduce the symptoms, and you know, it helps me to maybe, you know, get back on track in terms of like working and functioning. But for me, it wasn't like a solution. Like, I wouldn't call it healing.
I agree.
You know, it was like managing and, you know, just putting enough of supports in place.
Plus, you're in a contained environment, so
Yeah.
the expectations are different, and you
Yeah.
have not the same freedom.
Yeah. I mean, I want to distinguish between the people and the procedure that,
Okay, yeah.
that you mentioned, because there were times that there were really compassionate people. Like the second time I was in the ER was right before I was put up to the inpatient unit, and the person who greeted me was so compassionate and caring. It was so noticeable, and I felt safe. And I think it's important to have that trust there, and to feel safe. And so the people could be great. You know, the staff could be great. They're there to help people. They're just using what they know, what they've been taught. So I really don't blame any staff at all. And I even, you know, I wrote that in the book, because most people, you know, most of the staff are good and trying to help you.
With the skills that they have.
Yeah, those are the only tools people in the mainstream medical system have. So they don't have other solutions, you know.
I think this is the book that people could use to find different solutions, to begin the conversations. Because again, you're able to translate what pain looks like and feels like. And when you read a book, you can read it at your pace. You can put it down if it's too difficult. You can come back to it. You can think about the pros and the cons of reading this book. But I think if providers could understand that the testimony of people who've actually lived through is a lot more powerful, and I assume full responsibility for this, than anything else. Because it is you who can tell what works and what doesn't work, and because we're designed so uniquely.
Yeah. And knowledge, we only really know something if it is tested with our own experience. You know, either something comes from outside of us and we don't really know it, or it comes from inside of us when we do know it, or if it comes from the outside, it has to integrate into our experience. Otherwise, we're just believing something someone told us, and we don't really know. So
I have to think every time I talk to you, which is good for me. So what do you have to to share with others about this journey that is so different. I'm asking you these questions so you can think about it during our break. And how is this different today for you than when you read the book? Because a lot of things, I'm sure, have changed for you, part of having this great life that you now have in this wonderful wife of yours. Okay, so we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
Don't go anywhere. We're going to stay with Josh, the author of Healing Schizoaffective. Healing is the word. See you in a
Oh, honey, how's work? Good. What would you like for dinner? Oh. Mom!
Yeah. Just a second, honey. I need to take care of something really quick. What?
Can you fix this for me?
Now listen here, you ungrateful little brat. You're gonna start showing your loving mother a little respect.
Ow, ow.
Let's go.
Ow! Outside! And thanks for ruining my important phone call! Don't do anything wrong. Get out of there, you stupid whore!
Leave me alone!
What are you doing getting all made up, you stupid whore?
I can't take this anymore!
Get out of there, Holly! Damn it, Holly, open the door! I know you're in there! There, stop crying. I said stop crying. Stop, I said, or I'll give you something to cry about. Look at you, you're filthy.
Child abuse comes in many forms.
Stay in there until I get back.
Neglect is common. When parents get help, there's hope for children. Prevent child abuse. If you or someone you know needs help, visit helpandhope.org.
Mommy's really, really sorry.
You're very popular.
What are you doing with my phone?
You wearing that? You don't want to look cheap, do you? Now, you're not gonna make a fool of yourself tonight, are you? I love you too much to let you do that.
Abuse in relationships isn't always physical. For information and help, search This Is Abuse.
G-morning, sunshine. Wakey, wakey. Text me back.
If you'll figure out Jody's gonna
Hey, did you tell your parents about us? Let's skip first period together. Did you get all my texts? Is practice over yet? Where are you at? Are you with your friends? That's L-A-A-A-A-M-M-E-E-E. Capital X, lowercase o, capital X, lowercase o.
I love you. JK. I hate you. JK.
Are you ignoring me? We're in a huge fight right now. Is this something I did?
I can see your lights on. I'm coming over.
What'd you dream about? Me? I'm lonely. Holla back. Holla back. Let's try something new. Nude pics. Send me some. Text me.
Thank you for staying with us. We continue to speak to Josh Alexander, who's the author that we're speaking to today. Josh, we were on a break and I was talking to you and you're like, you mean we're on a break? So let me talk to you a little bit about that.
That's all right.
But I want to talk to you about the Josh you are today. You have suffered through a condition that has a name, schizoaffective. Lots of the parts of the journey that you have lived through have to do with where am I, who am I, what am I going to be when I grow up, finding yourself. You have used traditional medicine, and then you decided to go a different avenue. Can you tell me a little bit about who Josh is now, today?
Well, since writing the book, I considered myself healed, like I said, when I was able to function, in my life and was no longer needing medication, and I consider myself healed from the illness. But since then, I've had to go through a healing process of healing the hurt, and you know, I realized I have like a form of PTSD, you know, like a war veteran, but I've never been to war. It's a type of war, but I realized that, you know, I have so much hurt from it, you know, and I've kind of like a broken heart from it, from the trauma and the loss and the hardship that I was through. So it's just been, I've continued my healing journey, and like an addict in recovery, every day I fight for it, you know? So some days are better and some days are worse, but I still have to do things every day to stay on track.
I love the way you put that. Because I think that taking care of ourselves, it's much harder than taking care of someone else, right? Is it different for you as you see it because you're a male in the society to come out and say, I have an illness because of the male expectations? Is it harder for you?
I think it could be, but for me personally, I don't know if it, because I was teased so much as a kid, I don't really...
You were taunted as a kid?
I was teased a lot.
Really?
Yeah, because I was nerdy, you know, I was, you know.
Those are the guys we want to marry now.
Yeah.
That's the guy I married.
I know.
He's a nerd. I love him.
But I don't know if it's that or just my family, but I really don't care what people think. Not to, like in a bad way, but I care about people, but I don't really take people's opinions of me.
No, they don't define you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I'm seeking authenticity and to be more myself. And
do you like yourself?
Now I do, bet more. Yeah. I'm happier. I'm at a much better place, and I know it's hard to say that to people who are going through the illness, but there really are like nuggets of gold throughout the experience that are invaluable, that really make us, or kind of uncover us to who we really are. And I'm actually grateful for what I've been through. You know, not to sound insensitive or.
You're not. I say that all the time.
Yeah.
I say if it wasn't because of my illness, I don't know that I would know who I am and who I want to be. And that changes, you know, every couple of years as you gain more knowledge and as you understand yourself better. But you have been very brave because you stepped away. In your book, you do a good job, but I'm looking forward to the next book, Peer Pressure. You have been able to talk about traditional ways in which people recognize schizoaffective and what does it mean, and so traditionally. And then you're able to describe what's happening for you as a person, physical symptoms, going through the journey, experiencing the world before and after and in between. And you were brave enough to say, traditional medication may not be what I need to do.
Well, I mean, part of it is that you know, I'm really passionate about natural health and grew up in a more natural type of home.
Before you got sick?
Yeah.
Were you that way too?
Yeah.
So you were already drawn to?
Yeah, so that was part of it. But then the other part was I couldn't bear how I felt on the medication. So it was practical too. Like I couldn't stay like that. So I had to do something. You know, I had to find other solutions.
Were you able to share with your loved ones? You can define loved ones. I always say that loved ones go way beyond, you know, the family we're born into. We decide how large that circle is, right? Were you able to have discussions about this is how I feel, this is what's going on for me? Was that available? Not because they were bad people, not because they didn't want it. Were you able to?
I would be able to say it, and I probably did say it, but the hard part for me with mental illness was it doesn't, like, people don't necessarily understand, or it doesn't necessarily matter. It's like, I can't, you know, I can't work because I'm feeling a certain way, or because I'm having this experience, but I'm still faced with financial reality of having to live, you know what I mean? So it's almost like...
I had to go on SSI.
Me too. I was on disability for 8 years.
Yeah, I had to do it.
Yeah. So, but that's, you can barely live on that anyway. Okay. So it was like that reality of, like, I still have to try to make a life. And
so you say two things that I have felt and continue every once in a while. I get it. I get that feeling again is you can talk about it. And I say this to people all the time, but people may not understand it. And from there, correct me if I'm wrong, this has been my experience, you get that they don't understand it, but then sometimes the way that they want to show you that they do is painful. Like, you know what, I'm going to set you up for this interview. I got a buddy here, I got a friend there. So you didn't hear the part of, I can't function. Right?
Yeah.
Was that similar for you? Was it way off for you?
No, it's like that. It's like that. But our loved ones don't necessarily have the answer, so it's hard for them too. So it's, you know, it's very isolating, mental illness, because it's hard to, I mean, it's hard to interact with people and with certain responsibilities in life from that place. So it's very isolating, and I don't know. I wouldn't wish it on anyone.
Oh no, I don't either. Where do you find yourself now? What do you think? This has been the one thing I want to make sure the world knows that was helpful to me. I mean, you're obviously, correct me if I'm wrong, open to this journey. You are recognizing that it took place and continues to take place in your life. We can't shake it off. You know, I hear people say that all the time. You know, you can shake it off. I'm like, trust me, I would if I could. Do you find you are obviously open? How do you get to a place where you say, I want more of this, I want to learn more, I want to, because that's not what the world is expecting you to do. The world is, as I know it, you might know it differently, so tell me if you do, is take these pills, maybe go on this nutrition, function. These are the things that are expected from you. And those are great, right? Because society has to continue. But that's not a life.
I mean, it may be for someone. I mean, for me, it wasn't. So I think it is an individual journey. So if like I said, my friend's okay being on antidepressants, and he actually works a pretty high level corporate position, and he feels okay with it.
Yeah, I take medication as well.
Yeah. So I would never tell someone they have to do something. Really, the reason I wanted to get my experience out there is people to know their options, and that, you know, that first of all, that healing is possible, because, you know, I mean, the medical community, medical research and science just says it's a lifelong illness to be managed with medication. So,
do you believe that?
Well, my experience showed otherwise. So, like I was saying before, with knowledge, if knowledge comes from the outside, you don't really know it until it filters into your experience. So, in my experience, and I'm not telling people what to do, but in my experience, I have healed from it. You know, so the person with experience is never at the mercy of the person with knowledge.
Oh God, how could you not write another book? I know your number. I should call your wife. You definitely need to get. I think that's a book in itself.
I know. I put this stuff in my blog, though.
Please, we got to talk about your blog. Okay. So it seems like you continue to talk about you can heal. You can heal. what's the difference for you between healing and completely cured? Is there a difference?
Yeah, there's a huge difference.
Okay.
I'm not talking about a cure. To me, healing is your life moving forward and getting better, and you know, you wanting, wanting it. Like I didn't want my life when I was sick. I didn't. I just couldn't bear what I was going through. So every day, every year, my life's getting better. There are ups and downs, but I'm moving forward, and it's a healing journey.
Ups and downs. You see how honest you are? That is true for so many of us. You have good days and other days that you go, huh? You still have those.
But that's everyone. That's not just people with mental illness. That's why.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's why I said I don't consider that I have the illness anymore, because everyone has challenges. Everyone has difficult moments. Everyone's trying to grow and learn and do the best they can with what they have. So I don't look at myself as any different from anyone else. It's just my situation got to the point, like a bridge. If you imagine a bridge and you're driving cars over it, and then like big trucks, and there's a limit for how much weight the bridge can bear. It's like my bridge collapsed, and other people's might not. They might sway a little, or they might dip down a little, but they can keep going.
Great analogy.
Yeah. So that, to me, that was what the illness was. The illness was when the bridge collapses. I mean, there are people who feel low energy or low mood or or intolerable stress, but they cope and they keep moving forward. So then I wouldn't call that an illness. But when it collapses, your life just falls apart.
You can't function.
That's when it's an illness, in my opinion, in a sense, in terms of a mental illness. You know what I mean?
You are a working man. You are kind and generous. You share your life with a magical person, your wife. You are a member of a larger community. Do you have desires of impacting the world? Obviously, the book was written in your journey. And anybody who is listening, you need to pick up a copy. If you have someone who's living with an illness, regardless of, may I say this, schizoaffective, I think there's so much here that if you had not put this title, I would have said, oh my God, Josh was there with me when I got sick. There's so much of your journey. I mean this respectfully, and I hope I'm coming across that way.
Of course.
That I want, oh, I've been in that ER. Whoa, I remember having that feeling. Whoa, I didn't want my life. So I had a lot of, holy cow.
Yeah.
I can't write poetry, so then I quickly remind myself that it's not me. But it's very easy. What do you want right now? I always say right now because all of us grow up, hopefully, and we grow and we grow. What do you want right now? What do you think, if you had the magic one, you would do for people like you and I who suffer of mental health? If you had only one, I do this to everybody. I give you a magic wand, and then I say you can only use it for one thing.
So what do I want people to know who are suffering?
Yeah. What would you do with that magic wand that would be wisdom that you feel like they would go, huh, that's good?
Just keep the faith and just keep moving forward. I mean, there's so much. It's, no, it's not your fault. No, it's not your fault, first of all. Know that healing is possible.
So what do you say? You say not your fault. What do you say to all of this stuff that we hear all the time? Did you not eat well? Did did you not have a good childhood? Do you have mama issues, daddy issues of some kind? Was it a failure in your life? What do you say to people who are saying they had to be? You had to do something to bring this on.
I don't really say anything, and I just think we learn lessons in life through our own experience, and I'm not interested in necessarily changing people's opinions. I'm just really focused on my daily commitment to growing and then spreading love and kindness in the world and helping people in any way I can. So, I mean, in terms of mental illness, the only thing I'm really doing now is my blog and my podcast to try to just keep sharing. You know.
Tell us what that looks like. I mean, where can we find you?
So my website is just healingschizoaffective.com, so it's just the title of the book.
We're going to put it up.
Yeah, so I just, I have a little podcast on iTunes called Healing Mental Illness. And
so what do you do with your audience there?
It's sort of a continuation of the book. So I just I discuss some themes from the book, and I just keep giving some nuggets from my continuing journey. And I've learned things over the past few years as well along the way.
Not everybody is techie savvy, and I'm learning a lot, so let me put myself there. So what's a podcast, and how do people get it? And do they have to buy it?
No, it's free. So if you have an iPhone, there's a podcast app, and you just look it up, Healing Mental Illness. It's free.
On my phone? Okay.
Or if you have an Android phone, you would have to get a podcast app, which you might have to purchase for a couple bucks, but then the podcast is free.
And so then I go look for you?
You could look up Joshua Alexander, you can look up, the title of the podcast is Healing Mental Illness, or you can just listen on my website.
And how often do you go on, or are they recorded there so I can go and look for them?
Yeah, they're all recorded. I do them when I feel moved to say something, when I feel like inspired, and I have something I've kind of had a realization and I want to share it. So I don't really force it, or I don't do it. I don't do it every week, or I just do it when I feel like doing it, basically.
Are you feeling like you're connected with the universe? The smile that you just gave me said, I feel very comfortable with that. You do it when you feel it. We live in a society, and I had to learn this the hard way. I was on a train going so fast, doing 1,000 things, and then my bridge collapsed. And it collapsed. And I wasn't ready. I had no insurance, none of that stuff.
Me too.
And the train wasn't coming anymore, but everybody kept on moving. And so I felt like I was either left behind, ignored, not seen, not heard. When you smile and you say, when I feel that I have something to share, do you believe the universe, God, whatever it is that you all call it these days, I don't know, I call it God in the universe, because for me it's one, is telling you it's okay? Slow down? Slowing down is actually faster?
I think, yeah, I think through my daily practice, for me it's a daily practice. So
what does that look like? Help me out.
I have things that I do daily to maintain my health. So, you know, I try to eat well. I do like some exercise, my yoga practice. I do some spiritual reading. I have some things I do every day to maintain keep moving me forward on the path. So for me, it's really just learning from experience. It's really in the trenches learning, which is the subtitle of my podcast, Lessons Learned in the Trenches. So it's very different from how we were taught in school, where you're given this information and you have to like just memorize it. So I'm just allowing it to be born from my experience. So, and I don't have an agenda. Like, I'm not trying to make money off of it. It's free. I'm not trying to make money off of it. I'm not trying to like impress people. I'm not trying to get followers. I'm literally just sharing because I want to share, because I feel like I'm doing good. So, and if no one listens, that's okay. So
I'm listening.
Yeah.
I'm listening, and I want to talk a little bit about the magical space that you share now, and your wife, who I had the pleasure of meeting and hope to have dinner with you guys.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think that continuing to talk about this has to be your podcast, has to be conversations that people like us, if I may, if that's not offensive, continue to open doors and have that conversation. When you say I'm not looking to make money out of it, I'm not looking, let's say, be rich or whatever, do you realize that the universe attracts that to you? People will look for you. People will seek you out just like I did.
Yeah.
Do you feel that energy when it happens?
Yeah. I mean, I feel if I put out good, I'm going to get good back. I do feel that. But again, I'm not necessarily doing it to get good back. Like if it doesn't have any value for anyone, then I don't want anyone to listen to it. You know what I mean? So I'm not really concerned about that, I guess is what I'm saying.
I love spending time with you. I want to talk a little bit about love and how does that happen, because I have love too, and I think we don't talk enough about that, but I have a question for you. Could we spend a day with Josh? Is that something we can do? Could we spend a day with you and you can show me what spiritual readings you read, and I'll try to do yoga with you. I do it badly. My granddaughter does a better job. Because I think it's important to showcase what that looks like. And showcase is the wrong word, but to share with the world what rituals help us on a daily basis and how do we navigate our pain.
Yeah.
Or feel it. Because sometimes we have to feel it.
Yeah, I think it's also an individual thing too. So like maybe I like yoga, but maybe not. Maybe someone else likes martial arts or something, you know? So I think it's really just finding what works. And that's one of the things I mentioned is just, I was like a researcher. I was like trying this. Oh, when I eat too much chocolate, I feel like this. Okay, I'm going to try to not eat that much again. Oh, this makes me feel like this. I was literally just what works. And then when I find what works,
you have to listen to be able to do that.
You really do, yeah.
You have to listen.
Yeah, and you have to be committed every day to doing the work and just really moving forward.
Operative word is work, right?
Well,
that's a lot of work.
Unfortunately, but I mean, sometimes doing the work is taking time to rest. So it's really, and that's why
more books.
But that's why, like, it's not necessarily about what the answer is. It's about the experiential journey.
So my producer's going to kill me because I'm going to stretch this just a little bit, just because I want you to tell me love is possible. You're an example of that.
Well, love is everything. Not you're talking about like love with
all
another
love.
person.
No, you're going in the right direction. Yeah.
I mean, everything. Love is all there is, I would say, with everyone. I mean, the person you meet, you know, the cashier at the store.
So love surrounds us.
Yeah.
But you have romantic love. Yes?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, you have a beautiful soul you share your life with.
Yeah.
So love, romantic love is possible, even if you have a mental health illness. We're not...
Yeah.
We don't have to move away from that.
We don't have to move away from living the life of our dreams.
The life of our dreams.
We don't.
Wow. So I want you to take a moment. You already said I can hang out with you for a day. On camera. I don't know what I would do with that, but, you know, harass you or do something like that. Gosh, please, let me spend that day with you.
Might be pretty boring.
Hey, you said I can slow down, right? Let's see if I can slow down. That's the key. Boring is okay. I enjoy boring sometimes. Well, what I call boring. What would you, one person who's looking at you right now, what would you say to them? If they wanted to hear you for a quick second, what are you saying to the world right now? What do you want the audience in this show to realize? They met Josh Alexander, the author of Healing Schizoaffective. What do you want them to take with them?
Just that, you know, every human being, we have a shared human experience, and whether or not you have an illness or a label, it's no different. You know, we're human beings doing the best we can, trying to, be loving and navigate our way through this world, and we just can't look at ourselves as something's wrong with us or we're flawed in some way, because we're not. We're not. It's part of our journey. Maybe it's a more difficult journey than someone else has, but we don't know because we're not in someone else's shoes. So we just really need to remember that we're doing the best we can. The people around us are doing the best we can, and we just need to extend grace and just be forgiving with ourselves and others and keep moving forward every day.
I am definitely looking forward. I gotta hold your hand. Definitely looking forward to spending more time with you. If you are at home and you're thinking you're alone, Josh is here, I'm here, and we are part of a larger community. All of us have chosen different things, some common things, to continue our healing. But remember, you are one, you're unique, no one is like you. And that's why you gotta stay and hang out in this world so you can leave your print. In my belief, God bless you, and I'll see you soon. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.